This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze. You are special. Avoid the maze. We're all in it, and especially as parents. And even sometimes when it's a dual parent relationship, sometimes moms feel like single moms. And I'm sure Dara can understand that because she is a single mom to two teenage boys. And what I found remarkable about you, Dara, is that you saw a need as you were bringing up your boys. And it was like, well, it's a need for me. So I'm sure it's a need for other parents. So tell us how it all blossomed and where you are with it today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So it's quite a long journey, but my background is in global health mostly and product development in drugs and vaccines for big things. And COVID happened, and I had some time, and I was thinking about this idea I had had sitting on that I was this huge market for teen products that was missing, and especially in the clean space. I had started in body care and body odor wipe and deodorant and thinking about kind of what was happening in our tweens and teens. Some life events happened and I had paused that and pivoted to the supplements for a few reasons. One, I was um, having a lot of other issues with my own kids with mental health issues and trying to support them. And then talking to other friends with kids and teens, realizing there were kid vitamins and adult vitamins and no teen vitamins, and saw like, wow, that was really a white space. So started to research it and then just really developed this idea and brand from there, realizing that there was this big market need and wanting to support my kids. And because my background is in impact, I really wanted to have that part of be the brand. Like it's not just selling a vitamin and selling, something for a supplement on the shelf, but it's really this kind of give back and impact of our kids are struggling and there's this huge mental health challenge in our world right now.
And, there are so many that are still putting their heads in the sand. They don't want to think that this issue is happening. I have two young adult sons. The oldest is in his 40s. And so I started to see some of those mental health situations when he was younger, but even more so after my youngest was born. There's a 15-year age gap. And it was like, wow, what's going on here? Um, my son took medication for high functioning autism, and everybody wanted to buy his medication. And I remember him coming home one day saying, why do people want my medication? I don't even want to take it. And I said, number one, you don't share. And it never left the house, anyways. But
Yeah.
number two, it was, does your medication make you personally feel better? He'd say, well, a little bit. I said, well, that's what they're all looking for. I said, but it's not in the medicine. You're taking the medicine for one reason,
Yep.
but there are other things that you are learning to do to help make that medicine work. And I'm seeing now more and more as I'm talking to special needs parents that we have a whole generation of kids out there that they're missing out some components. So,
Hmm.
how did you figure this out with your two boys? I mean,
Yeah.
teenagehood is horrible to begin with. So.
Yeah, we could talk for hours about this. So first of all, I am supportive of any parent's journey, and this is so hard for all of us. My kids were also on different medications for different reasons. And one did not like the way it made him feel, so he didn't really want to take him. The other one, so he actually doesn't metabolize the medication. So we've done the genetic testing. We're trying to support him really a lot of OCD, anxiety, ADHD, like everything you could think of. And we were trying lots of different things. And he doesn't metabolize SSRIs. He doesn't metabolize anything. And I was like, how else do I support him? So in order to support kids who actually can't take medications, it's diet. So we've tried gluten-free does seem to help, but it's really hard as a kid. Exercise, like movement helps. And then we had school setting, and there are a lot of school trauma. The school he was in was not serving him. We had to change schools, and that has helped. So I was realizing that I was trying to support this child on so many different fronts, single parent, working, all of that, going through a pandemic, and realizing that one was a tool to talk to my kids about supplements. So like, are you tired? Do you need more energy? How can you support your body? How does your body feel? So that was one conversation we were having. And the other was like, if we're fortunate to have access to therapy, which I'm a huge proponent of, 1 hour a week is just not enough for the rest of like life and our parenting, right? Like
Right.
the rest of the week is you're on your own, and how do you parent children beyond that 1 hour a week? And so just really needing community and support. And I was realizing that every parent I was talking to was kind of feeling that way. And we felt connected through that community, connected through our shared experience, but like I wanted to amplify my voice beyond that one conversation and say like we're all in it. And then the last thing I'll say about mental health is like, unfortunately, it's a catch-all for everything. We have substance abuse, we have bullying, we have eating disorders, we have anxiety, depression, like it covers everything. And each one of those is a specialty. And you can't expect one provider, one teacher, one anything to cover all of that. And so for me, it's really just having the place and community to have the conversations. And then where do you go to find support?
And that's one of the reasons why I started this offshoot of Avoid the Maze, because we think we're all alone. And the reality of it is we don't have to be, but sometimes we got to go searching for
Yeah.
others.
Mhm.
And I know when I was going through this in the early 90s, um, I really felt I was alone because my family didn't understand. And my mother, God love her, she would say to me, when's he going to outgrow this? Now, if she were around today and saw him at 34, he appears to have outgrown autism. He hasn't. What he's learned to do is function. He's learned what his triggers are. And the big thing that he learned in the last year was that he had gut issues his whole life, didn't know it, and he almost lost his life to an exploding gallbladder. So, as a parent, my first reaction was, oh, why didn't I notice this when he was growing up? Why didn't I notice it as he grew up? But we can't know everything. But I think what it started with you, if I read
Mhm.
this right, is that you started asking the questions. Okay. I never really asked those questions. Like when my son said he didn't want to take his meds, I didn't ask, well, how does it make you feel? And that would have been important because one of the things we learned as he became a young adult, it made him feel fuzzy all the time. If he only had said that out loud, or if we had only asked it. So, how did you like delve into this with your kids, even though
Yeah.
you had a background?
Yeah. Part of me is just my own issues of wanting to be a fixer, right? Like I want to make things better, and I didn't want to see them struggle and not feel good. And so I just it was hard to see them suffer. Like my younger son in particular was really suffering, just feeling horrible about himself and going to school. And I was like, something's got to be wrong here, and something I want to fix it. And I would love to be able to give him a pill and fix it. Like
Yeah,
that would be great. And so what that was not working, and nor was all the support in like a public school system. Like, and we had moved a lot. And so I was starting to think about, okay, well, what else is going on? Doing my own research, my own health research. A lot of it, I think, is about inflammation, and we're learning that now. Like, if there's inflammation in your body, in your belly, anywhere, it's got to be in your brain as well. All right. And so if your brain is inflamed, then something's happening there, whether it's how you're learning, how you're controlling your and regulating your emotions. Like I don't think we have enough data, but something's got to be going on there. And I think the other part we're seeing now is with screens and screen time. And I'm not going to get into the debate about phones or not phones. And my younger friend, my 14-year-old, does not have a phone anymore. But we don't know how that's impacting our brains, right? All I do know is that it is impacting like their ability for attention and like scrolling and keep scrolling. And so I think we're going to have more data come out, but I don't want to wait for the data. And so that was the other reason I started this, is that I was thinking about what my kids were taking. I joked that I raised my kids on all organic and made my own baby food, and he still wants Dr. Pepper and Subway and eat not the best foods, right? Same as us, right? We enjoy our junk food. And so I'm thinking if their diet's not good and what they're putting in, like how else can we support them? And they don't want to eat. My kids would not swallow pills. They weren't going to drink disgusting drinks. Like how could I get it,
right.
support that? Um, I guess in the last part, I realized that 85% of teens aren't taking any vitamin. So if, if the base is like not even anything, then what could you support them? And then going through a pandemic, immunity, right? Just supporting our own immune function so that you're able to stay healthy. And that was like basic. Then I was looking at like stress and like, if you're not taking medications for stress and anxiety, is there a supplement that can just help the inflammation in your body? So that's my other one. And then sleep and energy, right? So our kids are up all night, they're not getting enough sleep, or they're tired. Teens are always tired. So I have a really gentle sleep one. And then the energy one. I was like, how can we be giving energy drinks to these kids all the time, right? And they want that because of the advertising,
Right.
and not knowing that actually just a B complex with no caffeine actually gives you energy. And so that was just like where I wanted to be in with it. And then the eye health for screen time. And I said, if we could just start here, these five are ones I want to give my kids. You could take all of them, or like they don't interact, but it's actually a tool to start saying, how does your body feel? To your point, are you tired? Are you sleep? Are you needing more energy? And then the other ones are more prevention. Like you're not going to feel it right away, but you're protecting your body for the future. And it's been a process because it's not how we normally think, right? We're changing. It's not how we normally parent. And so it's going to be a longer road for my brand awareness because we don't think that way. And so getting people to understand, like, to think that way.
Well, and one of the things I've realized about myself, and this just happened yesterday, um, I was feeling very distant from my husband, had no idea why. Um, I came up into the office, started working, trying to focus on that. And all of a sudden I realized I had a sore throat, my nose was running, and I had a headache. And I realized it wasn't so much that I felt distant from him, my body was reacting to something. And I actually had to explain that to him and almost say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this, but this is why I'm doing it. And he looked at me, and it was a great conversation because he said, I knew there was something wrong. He said, and I started going down the list. What did I do wrong? And I said, and I knew he hadn't, but I couldn't tell why I felt that way. And once I did, then number one, I could start taking care of my symptoms.
Yep.
And then it got me thinking about my son, my youngest son growing up, that again, we just assumed everything he was going through was because of his diagnosis. We never questioned it. We never actually asked, you know, he gets depressed a lot. And a lot of it was on a cycle. And now that we look back and we look at it, it's like, wow, if we would have realized that, this is when things needed to be up, this is when things need to be lowered. And now that we are understanding that, and it's something that obviously you do with your boys too, and what you're trying to do with your brand awareness is that when you don't feel like yourself, you need to ask yourself, where is it coming from?
And
And
when
it's
you're
hard.
younger, yeah. And when you're a teen, especially a teen boy, and hormones, you're not going to ask yourself that. Like you need someone else
Right.
to. You don't even know why. I mean, even as a teen girl, I didn't know I was feeling those things, right? And so, yeah, having those conversations that it's normal, but then how do you support yourself in it? Like, what can you do? Like, maybe you need to go for a walk outside, or maybe you need to do other things, medication or supplements or diet, but like having the support of a parent to have that conversation. And it doesn't need to be this like hour-long like therapy session with your parents. It could be like sitting in the car, right, as you're driving, saying, hey, I noticed you're not feeling so great. Or the other thing I'm a big fan of, and I wish I had done more with my kids, is modeling, right? Like saying out loud, I don't feel great right now, I need to take care of myself, or I didn't do that perfectly, I messed that up. Because our kids see us kind of be perfect all the time, and they don't see, because we don't tell them when we mess up. And so they don't know that their parents mess up. And it's not really serving them because there's so much pressure on them to do things right all the time. And so that's the other place that I really wish I had done more of, and starting to do more of, is the modeling.
And that's often difficult depending how you yourself grew up.
Yes.
Um, my son always used, my youngest especially, my oldest son never brought up, you always wanted me to be perfect. He had that gene in him on his own. But my youngest was always saying, oh, you know, you like Steve better because he's perfect. I'm not perfect. And to be honest, with the age difference between the two of them, I don't remember that perfection side. I see it now as a young adult. So when my youngest would say that to me, it's like, no, I don't want you to be perfect. I want you to do your best, whatever that is. And I was very open to letting him know the mistakes I made. His father, on the other hand, never talked about not making mistakes, but he didn't admit to his mistakes.
Right.
And part of that is because he is also on the spectrum. And so part of him that's guarded. So our kids have to understand that, it's good to have these conversations, but you also have to be mindful of who you're having them with because you might not get the feedback that you need.
Right. Or like having the expectations of who you're talking to. Yeah. I think you also mentioned, a good thing about, or an interesting thing I think about perfectionism and how I was raised or my own drive, and then think about happiness. And so, I really want my kids to be happy, good people, and what makes them happy and then fulfills them. But that balance of, but you still have to work, right? Like you still have to have a drive and do something, and having that balance of taking care of your mental health and being happy, but also, being a productive member of society, or what makes you productive or what fulfills you. And I think this generation, it has different ideas of how much they want to work and what makes them happy, but at the same time, they want money to spend things on.
Exactly.
And so it's interesting to see that because we do want them to be happy people.
Well, and again, my youngest would say to me a lot of the time, I don't know how to be happy. And my husband has this great way that if he wants to be happy, he'll listen to music, listen to comedy, that will change his mood. And he would say that to our youngest, and I would say, we all do it differently. Okay.
Yeah.
And when our youngest would yell at him and go, I don't like your music, I don't like your comedy, it would be like, but you got to find something. Now, it took him a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
And here he is in his 30s, and he knows what it is, but he knows sometimes it's a struggle. And it is a struggle because we've been brought up in a society that is trying to tell us that everybody else is living this happy, wonderful life. And the reality of it is, they're only showing you a fraction of their life. They're struggling as well.
Yeah. And that's a really good point because, my kids definitely got the message that if they were bullying or someone was mean to them, we could have a conversation that maybe they're unhappy and that's why they're acting that way. So like someone who's not nice to you is probably not happy with themselves, but that next step of what are the other people's struggles? You never know what someone else is dealing with. Even their parents, like sometimes I find my kids complaining or, and going down a rabbit hole. And I honor that and I listen to it. And then I make them pause and say, well, have you asked me about my day? Like, have you asked about someone else's day? And so it's not I don't think it's selfish because that's innate of kids and where they are very self-centered, but starting to think about around them and maybe what's happening around them so they can understand that it's okay to have a bad day and it's okay to be struggling, but what's also happening around you. Yeah.
So the one thing that I think is important when you're talking about supplements, there are going to be people out there who say, no, just get it from natural foods. And that's great. But like you said, were you going to get your boys to eat the fruits and the vegetables and all the things they needed? Probably not. And my son the same way. He loves vegetables, does not like fruits. So does he get his nourishment from his vegetables? Yes. But does he eat vegetables all the time, regularly? No. And so he now at his age knows the difference. If I eat this is how my gut is going to feel. This is where my brain is going to go. That's not good. But you know what? I still want that greasy chicken, so I'm going to eat it. and I know I'm not going to feel good. That's a choice you make.
Yeah.
But I can't get him to take supplements. The
Mm-hmm.
more I talk about it, it's like, so what are some of the other things that you can encourage people to do today that, okay, I don't want to take the supplements, but I've got to get it from something?
Yeah. So there's a lot there. One, I think it's the age of where your child is at. And so like you have a lot more control when they're younger to some extent. Then in the teen years, they can start to understand that, like for my son with gluten, he knows that if he's gluten free, he feels better, but he really wants the pizza. So like it's a choice he's starting to make, and it helps for me to like guide him on that, but ultimately it is his choice. Then with the supplements, so mine tastes good. Like they almost taste like candy. They're natural, vegan, gluten-free, and they're not a capsule because my kids won't take capsules, and they're not sugar-free because I need them to taste good, and I'm up against a Monster Red Bull on energy
Sure.
drinks. I'm okay if they have a few grams of sugar in them. Sometimes my supplements are actually safe for age 4 and older. Anyone can take them. I take them. They taste really good. But the parents of younger kids will say, well, there's sugar in them. And I'm like, yes, because I need them to taste good for my kid to choose to take them. So my kids were my taste testers for texture, taste, and I have to say they taste really good. I encourage everyone to try them. I'm happy to send samples out. And so I have no problem with them taking them because they taste good. I will say though, they are more likely to take the ones with immediate effect. So they'll take the ones for sleep because they want help going to sleep. They'll take the ones with energy because they want to wake up and feel better. The ones for immunity, relax, and eyes are more like me suggesting it to them or having it on the counter because they're not thinking like they need it at that moment. And then they'll take them. So I don't actually have a problem with that. For my friends and other people starting to buy them, I think getting people to try it is the best. And then once they try it, they're like, oh my gosh, it tastes like candy, which you can't really overdose from vitamins. You're
Right.
gonna like, you pee them out or whatever. You probably shouldn't eat a whole bag of vitamins. No one should. And I don't encourage that at all. But if you had 3 instead of 2, nothing's gonna happen to you, right? Um, but yeah, if anything, mine taste too good. So they don't taste like a supplement. And then I think the part of it is like, what can you do for a routine so that you don't take them every day? So for mine, it's the energy sitting out on the counter for breakfast, like, or on their way to school. Sleep is probably in the bathroom as they're getting ready for bed or like kind of like winding down, whatever is going to put the routine in so that you take them consistently every day. And now my kids just ask for them because it's part of their routine. Um, but yeah, I think they need to taste good.
Well, it's like I just learned recently that magnesium would help my migraines. And so if I take one at night, I take one in the morning. And so I have it right next to the bed.
Exactly.
At first it was like, I don't want to take another pill. I don't want to take another supplement, but it works. And after, see, I started with migraines when I was 18 and I'm 74 now. And so, I mean, I have truly, truly suffered with migraines. And now it's like, okay, yeah, I have a headache, but it's not a migraine.
Right.
Okay. And 99% of the time, I don't even take a Tylenol to get rid of it because it's something that I know is going to go away. So I think you're right. Once you try something and you see that it works, it's giving me more energy. It's giving
Yeah.
me less pain. It's, and the more supplements I take, the better I want to eat. And I don't know
Exactly.
if you noticed that with your boys or not, but it
Yeah.
sort of clears your brain.
Yeah. I think that's first of all, you don't look 74. And second of all, I'm also a migraine sufferer. And so I totally understand that because you're like, I want to take care of myself so I don't feel poorly. So I'm right there with you. I think that like kids who have taken medication, one of the things that this is the other thing that I really like have worked on and have thought about is sometimes taking medication makes you think that something is wrong with you, that they're trying to fix you. And I've really worked hard to say, there is nothing wrong with you. You're amazing who you are. We're just supporting you. And so these vitamins are ways and supplements are ways to support you. And it's a tool. And so really changing and reframing that conversation. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to fix. We're not trying to fix you. We all have our things that are, make life challenging or better or whatever. And being able to reframe that has helped them too, so that they're enjoying taking something that makes them feel good. The same way that like, yeah, drinking a Dr. Pepper or Coke makes you feel good for that first hour, and that caffeine boost, and it tastes really good, but probably does not make you feel good later, or doesn't, or impacts your sleep. And so these don't make you feel that way, right?
It's interesting that you say that, because when my son was on a number of medications uh, for his autism, um, and we knew he didn't like it, we said to him, this is what the doctor recommends. This is supposed to make you feel better. If it doesn't, you're supposed to tell us, which of course he never really did. Um, but the difference I noticed in him was he was asked at an autism conference one day, if I could give you this little blue pill and it would take your autism away, would you take it? And he said, absolutely not. That's who I am. And that was the day when he said, you know what? I'm going to go have a talk with my doctor about my medication. Because he realized that the medication really hadn't been helping him a lot, and he wanted other tools. Now, as a parent, you're the tool, you're giving them the tools when they're little. But that conversation that you're having with your boys now is important, because they're starting to develop and realize this does work for me, this doesn't work for me. Yeah, I want to eat something that I'm not supposed to, but I'm the one who's going to pay the consequences.
Yeah.
As long as you can understand that, because as adults, we do the same thing. So I want the parents out there to realize, when you said modeling is important, if our kids see us doing some of the things that are good for us, they're going to do it as well.
Completely. Yeah. And having those conversations and just being open to having those conversations is so important for them. Yeah, it's been a journey though. It didn't happen overnight, right? Like we're all learning this.
So you've been working on this basically since 2019.
2020. Yeah.
So here we are 4 or 5 years later. Um, what do you think is your best takeaway, that how this has blossomed for both you, your sons, and the people that you get to meet?
Yeah. Um, Sometimes I feel like I'm so in it that I, have to step back and see it. It's hard starting a brand by yourself, self-funding it, all of it is, it's so hard. There's some days where I can just be like, I can't do this anymore. And then I get this validation. I just got into Whole Foods. Whole Foods selected SAM+LEO, the brand. They selected 10 brands out of 1,600 to support, and I'm the only supplement. So to get that validation is just so important to me. And to realize that I'm building something that's more than just another vitamin on the shelf, that it's really impacting, giving back, has been so important. I think it's, for me, it's really that impact. Like the vitamins are a tool. I saw a need on the shelf. I want to give it to my own kids. My own kids enjoy it. But it's being able to give proceeds back to nonprofits working in this space. It's being able to use my voice like this on podcasts or other speaking places to say, I also say I have no letters after my name. I'm not credentialed in mental health or therapy. This is my journey, and I have a lot of experience with these two boys doing it, both at school and mental health. And I want to share that because I think that vulnerability and building community is so important, and we have so much more work to do on that. And that's where I come from on this. Like the tools are the vitamins, but the voice and the advocacy is where my passion is. And as I build and scale this, I want to be able to focus more on that impact and be able to say, like, these vitamins are amazing. I stand behind them. I give them to my own kids. I love this brand, but I love more of what it's doing.
I love your vulnerability, because I've said this over and over again myself, that yes, I have a master's degree, but I went back and got it because, very selfishly, my son was in college and I wanted to have a better degree than he was having at that moment. Very silly of me, but going back to school for me was great, because I got to see that I was smarter than I thought I was, many years before. Um, but when I started podcasting and coaching, it really was about the journey. And I hope our listeners totally understand that. We don't have to have PhD at the end of our name or doctor at the front of our name. We're not telling people how to do things. We're sharing our journeys, we're sharing our experiences, and we're saying, look, there are options. You don't have to walk my path. You know, if you look at Dara and you say, I'm not giving my kids supplements, that's fine. But find out more about it. See if it will work for you. See if it will work for your children. Learn not to hide behind whatever your kids' issues are. And I did that for a long time. It was, I'm the mother of a child on the autism spectrum. And it was like, no, I'm still me, and he is who he is. And I'm blessed. Proud to say that he lives 1,000 miles away with a career. And I talk to him every day and I miss him. And I worry about him at the age of 34, as I'm sure you will as your boys get older as well. What do you say to all the mothers out there who are struggling? Because there are so many single moms out there.
Yeah. For me, it's well, find your community, be vulnerable and talk about it. And even if you have a bad experience, like someone does not respond the way you want or expecting them to, there's someone else who will and can. I'm always happy to email and share my journey. So you're never alone. And that's the biggest thing. And then just to love your kids for who they are and meet them where they're at and not trying to change them. And when we change that part, it becomes so much easier to say they are just these amazing people and they're on their own journey and how we can support them.
And we can learn so much from them, which is amazing. So give yourself that opportunity too. We will have all your information in the show notes. So anyone who wants to get through to Dara can. We suggest you at least go to her website, check it out, and listen to her podcast as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.